evening to everyone around the world. Welcome back to another episode of the Puck Drop Podcast. I hope everyone is having a great start to 2024. This week we're going to be recapping week 14 of the NHL season. We're also going to be doing something a little different this episode as we had our first Puck Drop roundtable discussion on the weekend where we got some people from different parts of the world, I guess different parts of North America, I should say, who came by the studio and recorded a little hockey talk. So we're going to be bringing that a little later in this episode. But first, let's get to the action in this week's NHL season, starting with our standings as we usually do. And for the first time in a long while, we got two Canadian teams on top of the NHL standings as the Vancouver Canucks just surpassed the Winnipeg Jets for first place with 61 points in 43 games. But the Winnipeg Jets, 60 points in 42 games, have been playing incredible. We talked about them a bit last episode, but they deserve another shout out for how wicked they've been playing. Since last week, I tried to watch them a bit closer, and they just have an incredible system, I guess, that all the players are running. Bonus is doing a great job getting all the players to buy in to the system. The pressure that they put on the forecheck, the neutral zone, it makes it very, very hard and frustrating for the opposition to play against this team. They don't have any superstars. I guess Mark Scheifele you could consider is an elite star or even a star player, but they're just playing a well-rounded game. All four lines can do the forechecking system that Bonus has them playing. The 2-1-2 in the offensive zone. Just the opposition doesn't have a lot of time with the puck, and you can notice that again from all four lines. They're one of the best teams on defending the rush. Again, you can see as the opposition crosses over the blue line, they have a defender right on him, giving him no space at all. And then the forward's always back covering for that defender that jumps up. They're a team that does not make a lot of mistakes, and it really suffocates their opponent. They have gone the last 31 games allowing 3 or less goals against, which is an incredible number. It goes back to since November 4th. That's really when the season turned around. And even saying turn around isn't the right term because it's not like they started terribly. They were an average team in October. November 4th, everything changed. That's when this metric started. And since then, they've just been playing such a tight game. We mentioned again last week how Kyle Connor went down, their best goal scorer, and yet they're still producing. They're still winning games. They went 8-0-1 before the recent loss to the Philadelphia Flyers this week. All this is played in front of one of the best goalies in the world in Connor Hellebuck, who is one of the best guys to have as a last measure in front of your goal in case the defenders do let the opposition skate in. A very dangerous team to watch, one that I personally did not expect to be playing so well, and I think it's safe to say that most hockey fans, analysts, experts, whatever, all had these guys at least, average, maybe a bit above average, but not dominating the NHL like they have been in the past few weeks. Credit to the Vancouver Canucks, who are also on a 5-game winning streak, and they have been playing awesome hockey all season long. They've been a consistent team, great goaltending, great offense. That top line of theirs just puts up numbers. This week especially, they've been putting up some big, big numbers. They deserve to be on the top of the NHL, and overall, just great to see two Canadian teams thriving right now on top of the league. The Canucks also seem to be running away with that Pacific Division as the other two powerhouse teams in the division, in the Vegas Golden Knights and the LA Kings, have been struggling immensely as of late. The Vegas Golden Knights have lost 9 out of their last 12 games, and the Kings are 2-4-4 in their last 10. The LA Kings led the league in rush chances against for the first 31 games of the season. They were the best team at shutting down the opposition's rush, and then in the last 6 games, they went from first in the league in that metric to 32nd in the league. Absolute dead last in the league for rush chances allowed. So something in that locker room change. I don't know what is happening with Todd McClellan's coaching style. In one of their recent games this week, McClellan benched both Pierre-Luc Dubois and Quinton Byfield. Both these guys played less than 12 minutes in that game. Now, Todd McClellan has been criticized in the past for certain lineup decisions, and it's creeping up on him again here in LA. We talked about the big jump that Quinton Byfield made this year. He was playing great at the start of the year, and now to see him sitting on the bench like that, I wonder how it's going to affect a young player's development. I don't know his relationship with Todd McClellan. He had the team playing very well last year and this year. I think overall he is a great coach, but I wonder if this recent skid by the LA Kings is going to put him in the hot seat. I doubt they're going to let him go before the playoffs. Like I said, they have been a solid team all year, and it is just the past couple of weeks that they've really been playing some poor hockey. But I'm sure they're going to want to change that sooner than later because we are passing the halfway mark of the season, and you don't want to be playing this struggling type of hockey approaching the playoffs. Better to fix these mistakes and get rid of all those bad habits sooner rather than later. And the recent struggle by these two Southern Pacific teams comes in perfect time for the resurgence of the Edmonton Oilers and the Seattle Kraken, two of the hottest teams in the NHL. The Edmonton Oilers broke a franchise record this week with their 10th straight win. Kind of surprising, actually, that a franchise with such great history and such great winning percentage that they'd never had a 10-game winning streak. But anyway, when the Oilers beat the Habs this week, they set the new franchise record with their 10th straight win. And then just behind them, the Seattle Kraken also set their franchise record with their ninth straight win. Of course, the Seattle Kraken, a very young franchise. Nonetheless, a great record to have. They won 9 straight this week after beating the Columbus Blue Jackets. And in this 9-game winning streak, they also took down two divisional opponents in the Vegas Golden Knights and the LA Kings. So in a sense, those wins are like 4-point swings for their playoff push. So a big couple of weeks for the Seattle Kraken. They now are tied with the Edmonton Oilers for that last wild card spot. So the Western Conference is looking a lot tighter as we enter the second half of the NHL season. Over in the East, another team that was on a 9-game winning streak that did just come to an end with a recent loss to the New Jersey Devils is the Florida Panthers. We mentioned them last week. They are one of the toughest teams to play against in the NHL, one of the scariest for sure in the Eastern Conference. They did go on a 9-game winning streak, bringing them to just second place in the conference behind the Boston Bruins. And all this with, I guess, underwhelming production from Matthew Tkachuk. I say that because in the playoffs and last year in the regular season, he went off, putting up over 100 points, and he just was one of the best players in the NHL. And he hasn't really showed that yet this year until this recent week. He's now playing some great hockey and looking like his former self. We might as well transition this over to the player stats section. Matthew Tkachuk has 16 points in his last 8 games. So with him playing like he used to play and Sam Reinhart continuing to be a force, putting up goals, scoring his 30th goal of the season this week with less than 1 second left in the game against the LA Kings, helping the Panthers continue their winning streak in that game. Reinhardt being one of the best players for their dollar value. We mentioned many times how his contract is incredible for this team. Florida Panthers actually have a lot of great bargains in terms of contracts. And in fact, if we look at the best goals per dollar value, of all players paid over $3 million in the NHL, the two best players are Carter Verhaeghe and Sam Reinhart, both on the Florida Panthers. Verhaeghe getting paid 4.16 cap hit. He's already got 22 goals on the season. And then Sam Reinhart at 6.5, second in the league in goals with 31. This is how you build a team. Great valued contracts, allowing you to build around these guys, add depth to your squad. The Florida Panthers are doing it right. A scary team this year and probably a few years down the road too. That being said, Sam Reinhart is a UFA at the end of the year, so who knows if they're willing to pay him what he deserves and hang on to him. Either way, I'm sure they're focused on the present right now and looking to win this year. Wonder what they're going to do at the trade deadline. Going back to player points, Nikita Kucherov continues to lead the league for the Art Ross race. He's got 72 points on the season in just 43 games. And of course, right behind him, Nathan MacKinnon still right on his tail, 69 points in 43 games. Safe to say one of these two players are going to win the Art Ross, at least for now. We are only halfway through the season, but there's a big gap between 2 and 3, 3 being Panarin with 59 points. Anything could happen, especially with Connor McDavid not too far down the list. He's got 57 points, and he currently has the longest active point streak in the NHL. He's got 16 points in 10 games. So if I were to bet on anyone joining that top 2 race between McKinnon and Kucherov, it's of course McJesus. Now, if there's ever sound of a broken record on this podcast, it's got to be when talking about defensive point leaders, as it's always still Quinn Hughes versus Cale Makar for that race. For the most points as a defenseman, Quinn Hughes still leading the way with 51 points in 43 games. Makar's got 48 points in 38 games, but shout out to number 3 on the list, Noah Dobson, who has just been having an incredible season, a very young defender. He's got 43 points in 42 games, over a point per game. Great stat to see for the Islanders defenseman. He's also second in the league for time on ice per game, trailing only Drew Doughty. Now, quickly going back over to Quinn Hughes. Apparently, the Vancouver Canucks have never had a defensive pairing get over 100 points combined. And this year, Quinn Hughes is on pace to approach 100 points in a season by himself. And if you throw in his defensive partner, Philip Roenick, I am sure these two are going to break that record, combining for over 100 points. Kind of wild that the Canucks never had two guys combined for over 100. That being said, we've seen Quinn Hughes shatter a lot of defensive records for that franchise already this year. And we talked about Sam Reinhart being second in the league in goals. Of course, only two. Pablo himself, Austin Matthews, still leading the way with 33 goals in 40 games. He's on pace to break his goal record of 60 goals in 73 games 2 years ago. Great to see this guy not slowing down. Even great for me, a Habs fan. I love watching Austin Matthews. He's probably the only Leaf. Actually, that's not true. There's a couple of guys on that squad I like watching, but it's definitely an odd feeling getting excited seeing a Leaf player score. But Matthews does give me that thrill just because he's an incredible talent. There's no denying that. Habs fans, Bruins fans, Sens fans, whatever. You gotta admit, this guy is one of a kind. And let's use that to transition to our next little segment, which is milestones. A couple of them coming from Leafs players this week, especially in the core four. Austin Matthews passed Ron Ellis for the fourth most goals in franchise history, and Mitch Marner became the fastest player in Leafs franchise history to reach 600 career points. So these two guys have been playing together their entire career, both of them thriving in Toronto. One of them guaranteed to stay in Toronto for the next 4 years. Not too sure about Mitch Marner. That brings up a lot of questions. I'm sure these questions are going to be under the microscope in the off season, as next year he will be in the last year of his contract. We're going to talk about that a lot in the roundtable discussion that you're going to hear at the end of this episode, and I'm sure it's going to be talked about a lot more as the season goes on and into the off season. We also mentioned Sam Reinhart scored his 30th goal of the season. Well, he is the second fastest to 30 goals in franchise history behind the Russian Rocket and Pavel Bure. Sam Reinhart got his 30th goal in just 41 games. Pavel Bure back in 1999, 2000 got 30 goals in 34 games, so that's going to be pretty hard to beat. Either way, really impressive by Sam Reinhart to be second on that list. Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks, probably the hottest NHL player in the past week, broke an NHL record, becoming the first player to score four straight game-winning goals on the road. He got 7 goals and 5 assists in just 4 games for the Vancouver Canucks. An incredible, incredible week for this guy, which includes two 4-point games. His most recent game-winning goal against the Pittsburgh Penguins was a wild back-and-forth game, very heated. JT Miller really getting under Sidney Crosby's skin. I think JT Miller is probably the most talented rat, I guess you could say, in the league. He's got some meanness to him. I'm sure people would love to have him on the team. I'm sure Canucks fans love having him in Vancouver, but he's kind of a shithead to watch. He really gets under other players' skins. He's like the new Brandon Dubinsky, I guess, when it comes to Sidney Crosby. They clearly do not like each other. Some heated discussions at the face-off dot. Anyway, very fun game to watch if you want to go back and check out a very exciting game from this week. I highly suggest that one as it went to overtime, where, of course, Pettersson got a beautiful breakaway goal to win it for the Vancouver Canucks. And speaking of Sidney Crosby, this week he also tied and surpassed Mike Bossy for 22nd in all-time goals in the NHL. He keeps climbing the leaderboards for points, goals. He looks like he's not even close to finished. Looks like he's going to play for another 5 years the way he's performing right now. Still dominating and really carrying that team right now. They sit outside of a playoff spot, but it's very close. They're only 2 points out right now. And if Crosby continues to play the way he does, this team definitely has a chance to make a push. And this next milestone, very impressive and comes with some nice emotion. Michael Backlund became the second all-time in games played for the Calgary Flames franchise with 949 games. And that very game where he achieved the milestone, his daughter came in to read the starting lineups before the games, and you can see Michael Backlund get real emotional and tear up as his daughter runs to him and hugs him after reading the lineup. It was just nice to watch. Good for Michael Backlund, the captain of the Calgary Flames. Always seems to be a great guy in the dressing room. Never in, bad headlines for anything around the league. Seems like a very good guy, very good hockey player, a long time loyal player for the Calgary Flames. Now, let's move on to some of the news around the league this week. Last week's biggest headline in Cutter Gauthier being traded to the Anaheim Ducks continues to make some noise this week as new rumors emerge, one of them involving Kevin Hayes. It was well known around the league that Hayes, who was traded to the St. Louis Blues this past offseason, didn't have the best relationship with coach John Tortorella when he was in Philadelphia. They didn't see eye to eye, and that led to him getting benched at times and eventually, of course, being traded in the offseason. Now, a reporter in Philadelphia came out and said that Hayes was involved in Cutter Gauthier changing his mind about the Flyers and ultimately wanting out of the organization because of things that Hayes might have said or in some way influenced Cutter Gauthier. Now, it was great to see that John Tortorella, the guy himself who did not see eye to eye with Kevin Hayes, immediately bashed those rumors, really ripping on the reporter, saying that it's ridiculous that he says these things and how it affects a guy like Kevin Hayes, how it affects his life, maybe even his family. And he went out and said that Hayes is a good man, a very good man. It was all business related when they didn't agree to how they should play the game. It was nothing personal, and he really supported Kevin Hayes, backing him up, saying he's a good person and that these rumors are bullshit and should not be around affecting a guy like Kevin Hayes. John Tortorella, a well known hard ass, has always had my respect, and he doesn't seem to treat his players poorly. Yes, he could get heated, of course, on the bench or in the dressing room, and he does rip on reporters, which we all love to see. One of the best sound bites in the league, but ultimately a very good coach. And I don't know him personally, I think he seems to be a very good man, respectable, and he's good at his job. He's definitely got a different style than a lot of coaches in today's NHL. Sometimes you can't sugarcoat things, and sometimes you got to be a hard ass. You got to get pissed off. You got to, fire your boys up. Whatever he's doing it great in Philly. He did it great in Columbus. He's done it everywhere he went. He won a cup in Tampa. He's got a lot of success in his history. So love him or hate him, I think he's a great coach, and I really respect what he did here backing up Kevin Hayes. Reports also came out that the Flyers tried to get Bowen Byram in the trade with Cutter Gauthier. They contacted the Avs to see if they're willing to move Byram, but apparently the Avs wanted a lot more than Cutter Gauthier, whether that be added draft picks or other prospects, who knows. But that surprises me a little. Bowen Byram has been a steady NHLer for the past couple of seasons. He was also a very high draft pick, fourth overall in 2019. But from watching his game, I don't see, and I'm going to be completely wrong about this in like 4 or 5 years, I don't see that elite game changer play from Bowen Byram. He's a solid, steady top four guy, but nothing has really impressed me incredibly from his game, especially considering the hype when he was drafted. That said, Drysdale just started his career. It's tough to say who's going to be the better defenseman. I think the Flyers should be happy with what they got from Anaheim. And just from what we saw from Cutter Gauthier in the World Juniors and what he does in Boston and University, he's looking like he's going to be a very good player, an elite offensive piece. So I am a bit surprised that the Avalanche rejected the trade, or at least asked for more for Bowen Byram. One thing I do know for sure is Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic definitely know a hell of a lot more than I do about managing a team, so I'm not going to question them. A lot of people are wondering if Cutter Gauthier told the Flyers that he wanted out last year, why didn't they move him at this past year's draft? His value is obviously very high, maybe not higher than it was after this World Juniors, but still incredibly high, and a lot of teams look for trades at the draft, so it seems like a fitting time to move him. Well, more rumors did come out, and actually they were confirmed that the Philadelphia Flyers tried to trade Cutter Gauthier for the Montreal Canadiens' fifth overall pick in this past year's draft. Now, apparently, the Flyers had intentions of drafting David Reinbacher, who the Habs ended up taking with that fifth pick. They wanted to draft David Reinbacher to secure Michkov at the seventh pick. They knew for sure that the Arizona Coyotes were not going to draft Michkov. Michkov actually came out and said he does not want to play with Arizona. He's not going to sign in Arizona if they were to draft him. So the Coyotes were not going to take him. Montreal Canadiens, they might have taken Michkov. A lot of people thought they should have taken Michkov. And the Flyers, of course, wanted this player. So they offered to trade Cutter Gauthier for that fifth pick so that they can draft a defenseman in David Reinbacher and secure Michkov with that seventh pick. Now, lucky for them, the Habs did not take Michkov and everything worked out for them. They got their Russian star. And then down the road, they had to trade Cutter Gauthier for a defenseman. So I want to quickly look at the Montreal perspective. Why did they not take this offensive talent for their fifth overall pick? I guess they had their eyes on David Reinbacher, but when the Habs drafted this guy, many people were surprised. Many fans were upset because the Habs already have a deep defensive prospect pool. Everyone expected them to take a forward, especially this past year. The forwards were very stacked in that draft. Now, they couldn't take the top four guys in, obviously, Bedard, Fantilli, Leo Carlson, and Will Smith. They were all off the board before the Habs got their pick, but there were still guys like Michkov, Ryan Leonard, Dalivor Dvorsky, a lot of big offensive names that most Habs fans thought they were going to take. They did not. Maybe they really, really wanted one of the top four guys. And then in that case, there's your perfect chance to get Cutter Gauthier. If Cutter Gauthier was in this year's draft, from what I see, from what I know, I think he would definitely be a top five guy. I think he's comparable with guys like Will Smith. They just played together in the World Juniors this past year. I think Cutter Gauthier was the better player. Of course, he's a year older, and that makes a big difference at that age, at that level. But I think he would have been a top five draft pick in this past year. So if the Habs really did want that offensive superstar and they were, a bit bummed out that they missed out on the top four guys that went this year, they could have fixed that problem by trading that fifth pick for Cutter Gauthier, a guy who would have been perfectly fitting for that fifth overall pick in this year's draft, in my opinion. But again, clearly things are going on in the Montreal management room that I don't know about. Maybe they were very stoked on David Reinbacher. Maybe all along they had no intention of drafting forward and they wanted this guy and they got their guy, which is why they rejected the trade of the Flyers. Who knows? But I do think that is a very interesting, I can't even call it a rumor anymore because it was confirmed. Very interesting piece of news. As a Habs fan, I think I would have liked that trade. Of course, we haven't seen anything out of David Reinbacher. He didn't even play in the World Juniors, so it's tough to really see how he's going to pan out. But what we saw from Cutter Gauthier, he's just a really good player. He's definitely going to be a star. I'd be surprised if he becomes a bust. And that was our chance to secure a really, really high-end forward that we haven't really gotten since the Cole Caulfield draft. Nonetheless, Habs rejected it, and he is now a Anaheim Duck, and the Flyers got Jamie Drysdale. Now, Drysdale played his first game in Philly this past week against the Montreal Canadiens, and he had a great game. He played very good. He was trusted in a lot of important moments, including the top pairing on the power play, which he got an assist on a power play goal. So Jamie Drysdale seems to be fitting in very well. John Tortorella had great things to say about him. So I think he's going to be a great fit in Philly, and I hope Cutter Gauthier does a good job in Anaheim. All right, let's move away from this and take a look at some other news from this week in the hockey world. Connor Bedard underwent surgery for his fractured jaw. His timeline has now changed to 6 to 8 weeks. Initially, he was supposed to miss about 4 weeks of hockey, then it became 4 to 6. Now, after surgery, he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, which confirms that he will be missing this year's All-Star game, which is a bit unfortunate because, like I mentioned in last week's episode, he would have been the youngest player to ever play in the All-Star game, and just the overall hype around this guy and the great season that he's been having would have been cool to see him a part of the skills competition and in the All-Star game. But either way, priority is to recover. Priority is to come back and play for the Chicago Blackhawks. So he's going to be out for the next month and a bit. Also in this week, big headline of this season in general has been some bad hits from behind. We saw a couple more this week. First one I want to talk about, Tom Wilson hit Brzezinski of the New York Rangers from behind. Now, this one, I do not blame Tom Wilson at all. We've been talking about it a lot throughout the season, like I mentioned, and it's been a big topic for all the media outlets, TSN, Sportsnet, and that is all the hits from behind this year. Now, some of them are bad. Some of them, the onus is definitely on the hitter. In other situations, the onus is on the player getting hit. Them putting themselves in a vulnerable position or not protecting themselves enough. Exposing their back to the hit in a dangerous manner. Well, in this case, that's exactly what happened. Johnny Brodzinski clearly sees Tom Wilson coming. He clearly sees that he's coming in for the hit, and at the last second, he turns his back to Tom Wilson facing the boards, and he gets run from behind. He comes up bloody, and he goes to the dressing room. This is the kind of play that guys like John Tortorella were talking about, that players do not know how to take hits. This was the perfect example because he put himself in the worst possible situation, pretty much was asking to get run from behind by Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson got a 2-minute boarding penalty. Now, this can go either way. You can call it boarding for sure. He did hit him in the numbers, and today's game, obviously, they're trying to protect players from these kind of plays, but I feel for Tom Wilson because he couldn't really do much about it. He couldn't really avoid the hit because he was already skating towards him with intention of doing a shoulder-on-shoulder check. So a bit frustrating to see him get a 2-minute penalty for this. And then another game this week. We talked about actually the Vancouver Canucks and Penguins game, how it was a great game to watch, very heated. Well, in that game, Nikita Zadorov runs Riley Smith from behind, and I found this one to be much, much worse because Riley Smith's back was facing Zadorov a couple seconds before this situation with Tom Wilson. Zadorov had time to slow down, but he doesn't, and instead runs Riley Smith right into the boards from behind. There was no call in the play. Riley Smith ended up leaving the game, did not return, and he is now injured for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, it's not one of the worst hits from behind I've seen, but for this one to have no call at all, and honestly, no discussion, I don't really see people talking about it, and I'm surprised by that. When I saw it live, I'm like, oh, this is going to get some, some discussion on the internet, maybe supplementary discipline, maybe a hearing from George Peros in the Department of Player Safety. Nothing. Nobody's really talking about it. So I'm surprised by that. The inconsistency in this call specifically, the boarding call, it's tricky. It's a really hard play to call, really. It's hard for George Peros. It's hard for the refs, but it's tough to see how inconsistent it's been called. And this one in particular shocked me the most. The player got injured. He left the game. It was a clear hit from behind, and nothing. No call. No discipline. Nobody's even talking about it. Now, that said, there was a wicked, huge, clean hit this week. Probably the hit of the year so far. It was massive. Emil Lilberg of the Tampa Bay Lightning absolutely demolished Brett Leeson. Huge hit, clean hit, love to see it. Brett Leeson thankfully wasn't badly hurt. That was the perfect hockey hit, and I would love to see more of that in today's game. Of course, we know hitting is slowly and slowly getting less frequent, less common because of the speed of the game. It's no one's fault. The play is so fast that if you try to hit and you're out of position, well, you're going to get burned, you're going to be in trouble. That said, wicked hit. I highly suggest people to check it out on YouTube if you're a big fan of hitting in hockey. We need more of those type hits and less of the hitting from behind. Oh, and speaking of big hits, another one. First of all, I have to correct a big mistake I made in last week's episode. Last week I said Max Pacioretty got his first goal for the for the Washington Capitals, excuse me, after his battle with tough injuries for 2 years. Well, I was wrong. He didn't score. That was my mistake. He got his first point for the Washington Capitals, followed by his speech in the post-game locker room, which we played on the podcast. Anyway, my fault. Big mistake. Thank you for producer Randy for catching that, although it would have been nice if he caught it on the day we were recording, so I could have fixed it. But either way, just had to make up for that. Anyway, Max Pacioretty, not really his game, but he laid a huge hit on Jacob Trouba this week. Jacob Trouba is known for throwing the body around. Max Pacioretty is a big boy, but he's not really known for big hits. He rocked Trouba into the boards. Love to see it. Another one of those hits that we want to see more of in the NHL. Now, one final note before I send it over to the discussion that I had with my buddies here in the studio. Good news for the Colorado Avalanche. Gabriel Landeskog was seen skating for the first time since his surgery, so we're hoping that his recovery is going along nicely and would love to see him come back before the end of the season, or at least for the playoffs. He had a surgery in the offseason and he was ruled out for the entire season, but that would be a huge piece for the Colorado Avalanche if he could come back in time for a cup run. All right, now I'm going to send it over to the interview I had with my buddies here. Because it was quite a long interview and I don't want to keep this episode going into the 2 hour mark, we're going to do without some of our usual segments in the good, bad, and ugly. We're going to take a week off with the trivia. We're going to end with this interview. I hope you guys enjoy it. There was four of us here in the studio talking hockey, and this is a very new podcast, as you might know. Everything is new. Our studio is very small, so it's not really decked out perfectly enough to have that many guests. We did our best. Producer Randy did his best in editing to make sure everyone is well heard. Anyway, I hope you like it. There's going to be a lot more of this to come. But tune in, enjoy, and let us know what you think on Instagram. If there's any particular member of our discussion that you think is an idiot, his takes are awful, let us know. I'm going to make sure to pass it along to them, give them shit, and invite them back so we could rip on them on the air. All right, without further ado, enjoy our first ever puck drop roundtable discussion. All right, everyone, welcome to our first ever puck drop roundtable discussion, sponsored by Caffrey. Every season is a Caffrey season. Zach, what are you drinking this summer?
I'm currently having some water.
Oh, you fuck.
Yeah. You
Jerry,
poured it for
what are
me.
you drinking this summer?
Jim Beam.
Oh, god damn it. Caffrey's gonna fire us. All right. So we got two big time Leaf fans and one poor soul who chooses to not like a hockey team. I don't know how he thinks it's better to not have a favorite team. You'll have to explain that to us later. Zach, returning guest. You were on once before, so you've broken the podcast record.
Great to be here.
So Leaf fans, let's start off big with a Nylander contract. What are we thinking?
I think that a lot of people were comparing it to Pedersen, and I don't think that was really a fair comparison because Pedersen at the end of his contract is going to be an RFA, whereas Nylander was a pending UFA. So ultimately, he did bend the Leafs over table, and we kind of saw that coming because the precedent that was set by the other three
That's the
overpaid,
problem.
well, I shouldn't say overpaid, but handsomely paid members of the Toronto Maple Leaf forward core. So yeah, it wasn't much of a surprise. I don't know if I could have possibly said no to Nylander at 11.5, but you know, I was talking about it with a friend back home, and like we want every other team to get fucked when it comes to contracts and for them to overpay, and then we just hope against hope that the Toronto Maple Leaf players will take a home down discount, but it just never seems to happen. We don't have that sort of culture in Toronto, and I think that so much of that is due to the scrutiny in the media and the lack of tax breaks and a number of other factors that make players just say, well, if I'm going to play here, I want max contract or at least close to, and ultimately it does kind of screw over the Leafs. But the the prospect of losing Nylander to unrestricted free agency and getting absolutely nothing, as a Toronto fan, that's what happened with Kawhi. Now, to be fair, Kawhi did deliver a championship. I'm not sure if Nylander is going to do
Kawhi
that.
couldn't have paid enough to keep it Toronto.
Yeah, there was no way that guy was coming back anyway. But
So,
yeah,
would you say overpaid, just right, underpaid? What do you think?
yeah. So it's funny. I would say that right now, yes, maybe overpaid, but it is an 8-year contract, and the cap is expected to go up incrementally over. Or I think it's supposed to go up quite a bit over the next 2 seasons, and then we'll see what happens after that. So who knows if the cap is at 115 120 million by the end of his contract, it could basically look like what his current contract, which I believe Tyler is 6.9.
6.9.
Yeah, somewhere
What's the
around there.
deal?
So I mean,
Yeah.
dude, for a guy who's probably going to get 110 points this season, 6.9, we're laughing. So you knew you were going to have to pay the piper, and he did wait until his contract year to really put up these numbers. He was
Yeah.
always a great playoff player, but
And he did get 40 last year too, right?
yeah,
So
yeah. So I mean, it's not like this just came out of nowhere and we just said, oh well, let's just pay this guy who's a 1-year wonder. So we did kind of see it coming. I think 11.5 shocked quite a few people, but Matthews got 13 and change. Obviously, Matthews is a higher profile
It's just
guy.
hard to argue against Matthews. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
expensive as shit, but like he's earned all of it, of
you have
course.
to give
Yeah.
the guy what he wants.
Breaking
He's that
records.
type.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said though, like what are you gonna do? Are you just gonna let him walk? You're not gonna trade him. I mean, the Leafs are in win now mode. They have
I
been for
thought
a
they
few
should have
years.
traded him.
So
You were, but from what I heard, Tree Living looked around and there was just
Yeah.
nothing that they were. I mean, I'm
People-
sure you could have maybe got Jamie Drysdale or something, but
Hey.
that would not have been worth it.
What do you think, Gibble? You like the contracts?
for me, I kind of feel like, yeah, it's a bit of an overpay, but at the same time, if you look at the situation, there was 0% chance that he was going to get less than Marner, right? I think his thing was, I want more than Marner, right? And like you said, he was on a really good contract, and he's having a great year. I think even before the season started, if you were going to get the contract started, if you were going to get it signed, like I think you were looking at him asking 10.5, but he wanted more than Marner, right? So you're really looking at 11. So it's an overpay, but I don't think you're getting as screwed as you would say, Zach.
I
Yeah.
think what you just said though is the reason why the Leafs are not going to fucking win a cup. He needs to make more than Marner.
But
Marner's contract expires next year. Then what he's going to say,
So,
"Oh, I want to make more than
I
you."
think
I was just gonna ask about that.
It's just going to keep fucking happening.
at this exact point in time, I think there's not a lot that could have been done. I think whether or not firing Dubas or not firing Dubas, letting him go was a mistake is irrelevant. It's the timing of the issue, right? That was such a big offseason because Marner's no trade kicked in. So you had the
Yeah.
option before
Mhm.
July 1st to trade Marner, to trade Nylander. You had all the options, right? And as soon as that deadline kicked in, now Trey has no options. So Nylander has all the leverage here, right? Because he can walk if he wants,
Yeah,
and then the Leafs get nothing for him.
Yeah.
And he's going to make a decent amount on the open market. And now Marner can't do it. Marner can't go anywhere unless he wants to. And so like Nylander had all the leverage, and also Nylander signing this contract now leaves wiggle room for Marner, right? Because he's going to be a UFA. If the Leafs lose Nylander and Marner,
Oh,
they are just
yeah.
fucked, right?
Well, I don't think that that's even possible. And the one thing that I want to say is that people are looking at this as like, oh, it's the end of the world because they're paying these four players. you got to keep in mind that Tavares' contract comes off the books pretty soon.
The year after next.
That's right. And so when that happens, he will re-sign with the Leafs. Mark my words. But he's going to take 3 and change, 4 and change.
Way.
Yeah, he will.
Look at Joe Pavelski's contract a couple of years ago at 38. He got like 9.5 over 3 years.
That's an anomaly.
He's a freak of nature.
I don't think John's going to demand that kind of money, but I think for John's next contract, you're really looking in the realm of 6 or 7 for 2 or 3.
I just don't see them paying him more than $5 million unless the cap goes up substantially. You can't justify upping all the, Nylander goes from 6.9 to 11.5. Matthews goes from 11 to 13 and change. So, I mean, the cap, you'd basically, even if you gave him 5, even if you adjust for the cap, you'd basically be stuck with the same 4 guys at roughly the same amount, like the same percentage of your cap. I mean,
the Leafs are playing the game where they're spending their money on their best players and then looking for bargain bin players. And I think this year they've done a really good job, right? Look at Benoit. He's like, yeah, he's a 6th defenseman, but the Leafs don't need a 1 defenseman. They need those 6 defensemen. They need those 3rd, 4th liners to fill out their roster, right? A lot of the times the Leafs in the playoffs, which has been their biggest issue, is depth, right? So you're looking for those bargaining contracts, and I think you pay your best players, you overpay those. It's better than overpaying one of your 4th liners, right? Like the Camp contract. I love Camp. I think he's a great player, but he's a 4th liner.
Yeah.
At that amount of money, you're overpaying him by like $1.5 million.
And in the event that Corey Perry does sign a 1-year league minimum,
I saw that. He might go to Toronto.
Well,
yeah, they're the front runners.
Who did we choose over Perry a couple years ago?
Foligno, Thornton.
No. It was one of those kind of guys, and we made the bet on the other guy over Perry, and then he had a 6th season in Montreal. He's continued to have these really good seasons, right? And I think then he wanted to be a Leaf. At this point, the Leafs passed on him. So, like, does he want to come here?
Yeah.
Maybe, if he thinks that we have a shot to win. But
So
I don't think
we don't know how many options he has, though.
Yeah, that's true. We still don't even know what he did.
Right, well, unless that comes out, we have no idea what kind of options he has.
Bedard's mom's been awful silent. Yeah.
I think that's going to taint it, too, because, like, it really depends on the degree of how bad it is what he did, right?
But I believe GMs will know.
Yeah, of course.
Will find out what it is.
I heard a rumor that he went on stage, and I'm not joking, and like helicoptered his dick at like a family event where there were like kids present. I'm not joking at all.
The same guy who started the Bedard.
And because, dude, after that, he like went in and like had discussions about like substance.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So like,
I'm not joking.
All right, but for Nylander, this is what I'm thinking. Yeah. So it could go either way. Obviously, the way he's played this year, he could get whatever the hell he wants on the free market. Easily get 11.5 next year. So the best few years with these 4 massive contracts, I've been trashing the Leafs that they're fucked. There's no way they can do anything with these 4 big contracts. Next year is going to be brutal because that's when Matthews and Nylander's contracts kick in. But then the year after that, it's not going to be so bad. They get Tavares off the books. They get Marner off the books. So for 1 year, they're also losing, Bertuzzi's expired, Domi's expired.
And I don't think they're going to demand that cap hit.
So next year they're going to be
half the teams on expiring deals.
They're going to have no depth next year. They're fucked next year.
Off the books. Do you think he's signing for less?
Well, I just think they're going to be able to revamp their whole strategy.
It's flexible.
Whether they want to sign one of Marner or Tavares to a massive ticket or hopefully get Tavares.
Another thing for next season is that Toronto is going to be rolling 2 entry-level goalies.
That's the thing, yes. I mentioned that last time. Very cheap goalies. That's going to help them a lot.
That makes a big difference.
For sure.
Like,
especially with the cap going up.
But this is what I was saying, where the Leafs really didn't have a choice with the Nylander contract, is because if, for whatever reason, Nylander doesn't sign or he tests the market, then Marner has literally 100% of the leverage because they can't lose both. If they keep Nylander and they get him signed, they have more leverage in the Marner contract next time. Right? They're like, okay, well, we've already got 3 really solid guys. We can use.
Well, what are they going to do though? If Marner asks for $12 million,
but
they can't trade him. What are they going to do?
They can't trade him, but like if you let him walk, at least like you're talking about like, okay, we have $12 million and we still have players.
Versus
like you're thinking of like Calgary basically.
You just lost everyone in one season.
Yeah, and I think that's a bigger risk than signing Nylander. I think. If you really want to talk about it, like if you're looking at comparables, because I think Pasternak is too high a comparable for Nylander. Because this season, he's unreal. But is this his best season of all time? Right? We don't
Are you talking Nylander best season or Pastrnak?
Nylander.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
his best
Yeah.
season.
So but it's just his best season going forward, and I think
Okay.
a lot of statistics are kind of pointing towards it possibly being. His shooting percentage is pretty consistent, but he's also only on pace for the same amount, like 40-ish goals. It's the assists that are a lot higher, right? And
another big thing is that this season he's PP1. For years, they always had him on PP2. Even last season, he was just, coming over for 30 seconds of each power play. So that's made a big difference, I think, in his point production.
But let's just assume the worst, that he's going to be, well, not the worst, but the average, that he's a 40-goal guy, but he's not a 110-point guy.
Sure.
He's a 40-goal, 90-point guy, 80-point guy. In today's market, with the cap going up, you're probably looking at $10.5 million for that.
Yeah,
right?
The contract I think is fine. It's a bit expensive, but it's just the fact that Leafs signed that contract and they already have four
Right.
fucking guys
Right.
over 2.
But-
I'm looking at Colorado right
That's
now.
what's crazy.
And I'm like a combined 18.25. Like,
But I think
What team was I looking at the other day? Florida. Florida's contracts are incredible. They got what's his name? Verhaeghe scores 35 to 40 goals
I
every
know,
season.
like
He gets
Zach
what,
said,
like 5 mil?
There's not a lot the Leafs can always do about that.
yeah,
Like,
you can't.
But it's just going to keep getting worse because everybody wants more than the other guy.
has to take a cut.
You mean
Exactly.
former Leaf Verhaeghe, right?
Yeah, draft pick Verhaeghe.
But
He's got a
But
wicked
that-
contract.
Tavares is one. I think Chicklets or somewhere I was listening to this week mention it. Like Tavares has to take.
He has to.
for
Like,
sure.
Has
But
to.
but honestly,
but that's the guy
I
you
don't know. Am I going too far in saying it's the Leafs' only chance in a few
Um,
years is if Tavares takes a cut, or would you be fine with him walking?
I would be fine with him walking if he
Yeah.
expects too much. Yeah, I mean, he's a point per game player, but so much of that is a product of his surroundings, and he's going down, down, down. Like he's certainly lost a step. He still has the grind and the grit, but yeah, you can see in his game, like there's never a game where you're like Tavares is taken over, and you think
Yeah.
that that's going to get better in 2, 3,
So,
4 years.
I do believe he'll take a cut. I don't know how
He
much.
has to.
Also, I don't follow the Leafs as close as you guys. Is he happy in Toronto
Oh,
right now?
yeah,
Like,
for
I mean,
sure.
so
For
he
sure.
started the
so why
family. He's
not?
from there.
Right. So why not take a
Yeah.
cut?
So
His wife is
That's
from
good
Toronto.
size
Like the
cut.
whole
I
I'm
think
not talking like a.
his family all lives in like Markham. Like they all.
I think
That why would he ever want to leave?
I know. So
He's made like probably
wherever it was,
110 million.
About it. Yeah,
but
like
I think as much as I'd love him to take $5 million, I think 3 years at 7, you're still getting, it's a lot.
Jesus
It's a lot.
Christ.
Do you
You're
think the
get-
Leafs should sign that?
So
Sorry. Okay. Here's
there's no.
I
let
think
me just
I will say.
continue.
You know what's going to be a very good comparable before is Stamkos is up at the end of
Right,
this season.
right.
This is the first round pick from the season before, who I would say has been more consistent when he's healthy.
Sure.
and
Through
he's
his career,
transitioned his game really well.
and it looks like Tampa's going to let him walk.
If he walks, he's gonna get a whole.
It looks
lot
like
more
that. Like
money.
he actually went to the media and said, "I'm openly upset with
Yeah.
the lack of like they haven't reached out once and made any sort of offer." And that dude for Stamkos, their all-time point leader, to just go to their captain to what has he won 1 or 2 cups? Two.
Two.
Just to go to the media and actually say something to them, that something's brewing there.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a perfect comparable because I would say that when they're healthy, Stammer is actually a little better than Tavares. You don't think so?
I think so.
They're a very good comparable.
They're a very good comparable. I think Tavares' game transitions really well to later in life because he's always been a really poor skater, right?
Mhm.
That's not a big part of his game.
Fair point.
And Tavares has never been super solid defensively, right? And so I think Tavares' game transitions well in as he gets older. And I think Tavares has already taken a step back, and I think that step back is the biggest step back that's going to be for the next couple of years.
30.
I think if you're signing that 3-4 year contract, 4 I think is a lot. If you're signing 2-3 years, I think that his game is obviously going to decline, but it's not going to decline to the point where he's not playable, where he's not a serviceable second line guy.
No,
And
he'll be third line by that time. He will be.
I don't know about that. There's been a lot of talk about transitioning to winger already, right? As of this previous off season, we've talked about.
Did you guys hear that goat?
Yeah. We've talked about Tavares transitioning to winger, and when he's played there, he's looked uncomfortable. And so I don't know how viable it is to put him on the wing. I don't know if he needs time to adjust. But if we want to keep him as a second line center, I don't think that 2 or 3 years at $7 million is an overpay. I think that's a discount. I think that's less than he'll get on the open market, and I think that's he's at 11 now, right?
How
So
old
it's
will
4
he be
million
at the end of his contract?
34.
34, and you're going to give him $7 million?
to 37.
Here's my
Yeah. Look at the compare. I'm just saying.
here's my thing.
Look at the comparables.
You're going to say
I'd love to
Pavelski, but Pavelski's a fucking like a freak of nature.
Yeah,
like that
he's
doesn't
so
happen normally.
But if you look at the
He's older than me.
so
Second
big-
oldest in the NHL
Yeah,
right now. I
yeah.
believe.
the big
Yeah,
benefit.
he's 39.
And
And
then
then Pavelski, and then everybody else from the 03.
So
Andre,
the big benefit to signing Tavares for 3 years, and whether it's 7 million or less, is he's not 35 when the contract kicks in. So if he like is abysmal, if it's brutal, he can retire. There are options for they can bury it because it's not an over 35 contract, right? And I agree. Like I'd love to get Tavares for 3 million. Like of course that's
I
amazing.
don't think 3. I should have said maybe 4 to 5.
But see, I don't think.
the
I
thing
think
is,
that's too steep a discount.
Here's the thing: even if you think he's worth 7, like even if you think it's a little bit of a stretch, but he's worth 7, how the fuck can they make that work with the other contracts and then Tavares taking
And
that much?
at that point, they're going to need to sign a goalie. They're not going to be able to pay a goalie $1 million.
I know the salary's going up, but like I don't understand how you could justify
But
that.
I agree.
They've been saying it for
Like
the
again,
past.
I'm looking at the Avs right now.
Then what are they
Like,
going to sign Marner for? If they sign Tavares for 7, what's
He's going to
Marner?
want 12.
He's going to want more than Nylander, like you
And-
just said, and that's.
but
I
I think
Taves at 4 million,
Yeah,
and then
it's
you're
so-
having Tavares
that's
at.
crazy.
I think
fine, but I
sure,
don't
and
see.
I don't
agree.
disagree.
I know he's worth that, but
I don't disagree with you guys. Like, I just think he's gonna look like his whole career, the way you look at it, and the way the Leafs go. I don't think it's realistic to ask him to take that kind of discount. And I would love if he did. I'd love to be wrong.
Are you happy if Leafs signed Tavares for 7 mil, 3 years, and then Marner 8 years, 12 mil? Are you happy?
No, and it's not because of the Tavares contract that I'm not happy.
It's the Marner one.
Yeah, I think this year. So I think Marner's contract, it was a bet, right? It was a bet on him being this outstanding player. Marner, he's at what 10.9 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
10.903.
I think last year Marner was worth that contract. Every single other year, I think he was overpaid.
Marner was the only thing I liked about the Leafs last year. I know I'm a Leafs hater, but several times last year I.
But
praised
how many
Marner
years is
being
that?
Only Marner until his wedding dance.
How many years is Marner's contract, right?
That
You
being
like,
said, he is on pace for 95 points this season.
but I think
Horrible.
so.
Quietly, too.
The one thing I think
Seven.
with Marner is even when he's playing bad, he's putting up points, and I don't necessarily think those points are super relevant. This is my big issue with Marner's game is you always look at, oh, he's not playing well. Oh, well, he had 4 points last game. Like, I think Marner's game, you can't just look at the points as like a value of his contract. You have to look at how he plays. You have to look at his defensive impact because one of the things that makes Marner a special player is his defensive impact and his transitioning of the puck and his passing, right? And if you're only getting his passing, I don't think he's worth that amount of money.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going more?
I think he's going to want more than Nylander, for sure.
I
I
think
think he's going
for
higher
sure.
than Nylander, yeah.
I
What
think
is
he-
that?
I wouldn't be surprised if he took 11.5.
I was gonna say match.
Yeah,
even that,
yeah.
Makes sense.
That's-
Unless he rips up the second half of this season,
Mm-hmm.
he's got next season.
Well, yeah,
Because I don't think
got
I
next
don't
season
I don't
too.
see how what his bargaining position would be if
Well-
Nylander just kills him this season and
Right.
next season in
But that-
points.
That's another thing. There's a year and a half.
Yeah,
like,
it's
if-
tough to
if
say.
that lights a fire under Marner's ass, just
Yeah.
to,
But they're only 1 year apart. Like they're
Yeah.
pretty much the same age.
yeah, right.
I
right,
think
right.
So
But I just mean if he goes off the rest of the season and next season, then the Leafs are in a tricky spot.
Yeah.
Like,
I
Sure.
don't see him going off this season, but of course, next season is a contract year, so that's when
You know
he's
what's
gonna
really going to
just
matter,
go
though?
fucking
He's gone off a lot in the
playoffs.
regular season. It's if he could fucking produce in the playoffs.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
he has
think
not
this
done
is-
that.
Last playoffs he wasn't bad.
Willie's the guy that always shows
I
up in the
didn't hate
playoffs.
Marner in the playoffs.
No.
I
Willie-
didn't. I thought
No.
he competed more than most guys do.
Willie
has been the
is
Leafs'
better
most
in the
consistent,
playoffs
yeah.
for sure.
Right.
I think, like you said, this playoffs is going to be the biggest piece for the Marner contract,
Mm-hmm.
and I think matching could be okay, but I think it's not necessarily a bad option. to look at your options with Marner next year, depending on how he plays the rest of the season and plays next season.
You mean in terms of
Is he
trade?
trading him?
Well, he has a full no move, so he has to agree to that.
Yeah.
But
I
think,
also think that they would have to have a talk with Matthews first to be like, are you okay with us
Yeah.
letting him go?
So-
Because Matthews probably
Right,
has a
right.
big say in what
Right.
goes on.
For sure.
Where like I'm 100% sure that the only reason that they brought in Ryan Reeves this fucking year was because they went to Matthews and said, "What are you missing?" He goes, "Someone to beat the shit out of someone."
Right.
Well, someone's just ragdolling me behind the net, and I can't do anything because I'm a pussy.
There's
That's
no way
their
they
move.
don't communicate with Matthews.
Sure,
That's what I mean,
of course,
right?
but I don't
Poster boy
think.
of
Yeah.
for,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
not
But
even just the Leafs.
I think
Mhm.
also a big factor when looking at how you want to play it with these contracts of these guys is we always talk about the Toronto market, right? Matthews and Nylander are the perfect players for the Toronto market, and Tavares too. They're quiet in the media. They don't say anything sensational, and nothing gets to them.
Yeah, they get
Nothing
the
bugs
shit
them.
beaten out of them by reporters nonstop, and
But
they don't really
They don't
they
care.
don't fight back. Yeah,
That's true.
You can see it in Marner's game. If he's having a bad stretch, if the media is on him, if people are bashing him, you can see it in Marner's game. He's a Toronto guy. He loves Toronto, and that's something we as Leaf fans value. But I think that's also to his detriment. Is it gets to him, and you can see it. And even if it doesn't get to him, it looks like it gets to him.
Does he get bashed more than the other two?
when he wears that hat.
Deserving of shit.
Oh, you don't know the hat?
No.
But
You ever seen Scary Movie where like Charlie Sheen's like talking to the police officer and it cuts back to her and it cuts back and the hat just keeps getting bigger and like the brim just keeps getting bigger when she finally gets into the car and it's like one of those like Mexican sombreros that you wear when you order it's your birthday at the Mexican restaurant. It's that he walks around in one of those fucking things.
Is this not a great picture? But is this the hat we're talking
He's
about?
got so many fucking hats,
Oh,
but
he's got multiple.
they're
Oh my God.
horrible.
Get rid of him.
Yeah, yeah.
Was he wearing a hat during the dance at the wedding?
I think he had a hat for portions of the ceremony.
Well,
All
that's
right.
fair.
I mean, when he exchanged vows, I'm sure he was wearing the hat.
Jesus. All right, we're at 27 and a half minutes of Leaf talk, so we clearly lost all our listeners now. But one more thing before we move on. Can we all agree David Pasternak's a better player than William
Yes.
Nylander?
yeah, I think it's no question.
100%.
So, this is how the Bruins
11.25, right?
are always fucking good. When
Right.
Bergeron was the captain and he was there getting paid, what, 6 something? No player
No
took
one
more
made
than
over.
Bergeron.
Yeah.
Marchand took under him. Every player took under him. He's gone now. Pasternak's the new highest contract. Deservingly so. He deserves whatever he got, 11.25.
Yep.
That's how you make a good fucking team. That's how you
Right.
build around these players. And so Nylander's saying he needs more than Marner. And then in 2 years from now, when Marner says, I want more than Nylander, that's what I mean. You're never going to fucking
And I
win.
believe
with
they
that way.
all think like that.
And they all
But-
deserve it. They all deserve it on the open market. But
I
if you
mean,
want to
market,
win a
sure.
cup and you're
Right.
happy playing in Toronto, you need to take a hometown discount.
But you don't have that luxury. Like that's great.
Then
I
you're
agree
not
with
gonna
you.
win.
That's
But
on the player.
okay, so
That's on the
what
player.
you think? Get rid of Matthews, get rid of Marner, get rid of Nylander.
No, you
That's the
need
mo-
those guys.
They
need
just
to
collectively
take-
need to be like, all right, let's take a bit less so our
But you
team
need
can
a-
fucking sign depth.
You need to build that from garbage. You need to build that from the beginning.
Someone's got to set the mark. Matthews could have been the guy to set
Spezza,
it.
man. He sets.
But
Yes.
but he
You're
didn't.
Dano.
Giordano. Every
I
follow
think-
suit.
I think there's no point talking about this because it's not going to happen. It's just a moot point.
Then-
You're
then-
right. Like it's great that
but
those teams do that.
If it's not going to happen, the win is not.
They're not
going
going to win. Yeah.
But then you
simple as
can't. But then you can't talk about like is the Nylander contract an overpay? Is this an overpay? Because it's irrelevant. It
No,
doesn't.
I
That's what I mean.
actually agree with that. I agree that like I think it's a slight overpay, but I don't think they had any other choice.
For sure. Like I said, he
And-
can make it anywhere he wants to make it. But does he want to win a cup or does he want to make a bunch of fucking money?
Right.
You're still going to be a multi-millionaire if you take $9 million a year for 8 years.
But to
you
be
know?
fair though, I think that
6.1.
Yeah.
I think
it's like
no,
this guy
I think that if money was the only thing going through his head, which everybody was accusing him of, then he would have signed in Vegas or Florida where he wouldn't have had to pay tax. Like he's getting fucked up the ass for 50% by the Ontario government. So I don't think that money was I'm sure it was a huge fucking deal, but I don't think that it was as selfish as people are kind of
Yeah,
accusing
but in
it.
that case, if you're already getting screwed that badly, why not take a little more?
So,
Like,
Which he did.
but
Which he did, because there were rumors like 2 weeks before being like, he's going to go 11.2.5 and get exactly what Pasternak did. And then there were these fucking outlandish rumors
His
that,
dad's number?
yeah, that's right, that he needed to get 92
His
million.
dad's number? Oh, my God. All right. Transition to Elias Pettersson is an RFA next year. How much is he going to make? If Nylander got 11.5, Pettersson, I think, again, better
Yeah,
player
but
than
he's,
Nylander.
I mean, he came out of the gates hot, and he's kind of tapered off.
Pedersen?
Yeah, I don't think
He
he's
has 7 goals and what is it? Did anyone see that today? In the last 4 games, he has 7 goals and 5 assists. Like,
okay.
he's
Maybe in
red
the last
hot
4 games, but
this week. Yeah,
at the beginning of the season, he was like top 5 in scoring, and now he's what, like 30th or something, right? He's gone down quite a bit, if I'm not
He's
mistaken.
got to be up there. He's on pace.
so
for
yeah,
100
last 4 games, he's got 12
Okay,
points.
but what is he overall?
overall? That's gonna
If he's
take
on, if he's on
Randy
pace
pull
for
it up for us.
111, then he's got to be.
Okay, but
top
regardless,
10.
without looking at numbers, how much do you think he should sign?
Yeah.
He's gonna stay in Vancouver. He's an RFA.
Okay, he's in fifth right now, tied for fifth with 57 points.
Oh, okay. I'm way
And
off. Maybe I was looking at
he's a
goals.
point behind JT Miller.
Okay,
in
never
third,
mind.
And then it's a 9.
Never mind. Maybe I was looking at just goals.
So they have their highest paid player right now. Vancouver Canucks is, let's take a look.
It's got to be JT.
JT Miller at 8 mil, and then Quinn Hughes, who's having an incredible year, 7.85.
Yeah,
He's
that's
an
a nice
incredible
contract
player.
for them.
They can sign Pedersen for over 10. They will for sure. He deserves over 10.
100%.
Yeah.
What do you think he's gonna get?
Sure. I mean, because he's an RFA, I don't think that he has the bargaining power that Nylander did. So I think that they can wait it out. And I don't know if I don't think they would ever go to arbitration with a guy like that. But like
Yeah,
in
'cause
the
you
event
don't
that
take
he was
the
saying he
first
wanted 13, then they could. But I don't see him getting more than 12.
I think 12. 12
I think the
was
number starts
that
with
just
1.
came into my head.
12 makes sense. I think that's fair for him. That's good for the team.
Yeah,
He
I
is
don't see
there.
him even getting that though. Not as an RFA.
No.
You think
No.
less?
Yes, I do.
Nate's on
Yeah.
12,
I don't know.
I'm gonna say it's over 11, but under 12.
I think
I could see him getting 12, but the cap's going up what, 5?
4 or 5.
4
yeah.
or 5 now. They're projecting.
I think 12 is.
What about Stammer? What's he gonna ask?
Yeah, so that's the interesting one for me. As I said earlier, I think that that's what I'm gonna basically that'll be the baseline for what Tavares signs for. Because I think that if Stammer stays healthy, and Tavares is almost always healthy, so if they put up similar numbers, now maybe you can pull that up. I don't know. Is Stammer doing well this season?
He's got 38 points in 40 games.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, he's basically right at where Tavares is.
For 75 points, 32 goals.
Which is what Tavares is too, right?
Yeah,
Like right around there.
Right around that.
Yeah,
point.
and they're only a few months apart. Like Tavares missed the Stammer draft by like 20 days or something.
Yeah, how much do those injuries with Stammer play in?
Yes,
things?
absolutely. And the
I
fact
just-
that Tampa's on a downward trajectory, whereas
Ish.
they're not even in a playoff spot.
Yeah, but they had Vasilevsky out for this whole start of the
It hasn't.
season.
They did well.
much of
with-
it. Yeah,
they
I was
did
gonna
well.
say they were doing
Yeah,
all right.
really well.
Yeah, they were neck and neck with Toronto for
There's
a while.
good
Yeah.
chance. I was like, I think I mentioned to you the Devils Tampa game today, saying that should be a good one, and then I was like, fuck, they're both. I don't even think they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're both.
Yeah.
wins.
Like start of the
Yeah, yeah.
season, you would look at that matchup and be like, that's gonna be a good one.
Devils need
But-
goaltending, obviously.
Yeah, when the
Did
Devils
anybody
were
see
good,
that game?
Jerry claimed to have a team.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did anybody see that game today?
No,
I don't know.
No, I haven't watched anything.
Yeah,
today
me
because of
neither.
it.
So I don't.
They got this Leafs game on.
no.
Fox.
So yeah, I know. I
Stammer, I have no idea what he's gonna get. I really
no. But I think Gimple
don't know how
that
that's gonna
that
play out.
I think they're gonna let him walk.
I do believe that.
Yeah.
I do.
And so I
definitely
think that would inflate his
Also-
value slightly because there are going to be teams kind of scrambling to get him,
Fighting for
which
him.
Right.
which will drive it up by at least a mil. Whereas if he was, because I would imagine just as he did when he was a UFA last time, he took a hometown discount to stay in Tampa.
Sure.
He could have signed for more in Toronto, and they had the fucking mayor of Toronto and the president of Canadian Tire like waiting with like flowers, going, "Come on over here," and he didn't.
That was
come.
the biggest single day in like off-season history.
Yes,
Do you remember
it
the
was.
3 things that
Yeah,
happened?
there was the Shea Weber.
Shea Weber,
There
Subban,
There was the
Subban.
Taylor Hall,
Taylor Hall,
Adam
and
Anderson.
then
the Stamkos. All in
All within like an hour and a half. Not even
Yeah.
one day. It was like an hour and a half.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
But-
really though do not see him.
I think it's too early to see because we really have to see what happens with Tampa's season. But yeah,
There is a decent chance they make the playoffs at this point.
Yeah. I don't think they're
Not
out of it. Like you were
great,
saying.
but I don't have a lot of confidence in the Devils these days.
I was gonna say that the wild cards from the Metro are
The Metro is
fucking
insane.
horrible.
It's such a
It's
weird
horrible.
division this year.
It's fucking
And-
Islanders and
There's-
Flyers and Canes
Yeah,
and
there's
Devils.
obviously a chance that the Flyers.
Jesus,
Decline.
I don't know what the fuck.
Dude, I mean the Penguins are only 2 points back of the
Right.
Lightning.
I think the Flyers decline. Like we're kind of like I think you'd have expected it already. I don't know if they're as real deal as they are right now, but I think they're right in there. Look at the Devils last year that came out of nowhere, right? The Flyers are kind of in a similar situation.
Except the Devils had good players.
Yeah, the Flyers on paper should.
Hey,
That's the thing, though.
Travis
But-
Konechny's pretty sick.
But that's
Jesus.
literally it. Like last season, everybody said in a couple seasons this team's gonna be sick, and they did it
They
last
just
season.
did faster. Yeah.
Flyers, nobody were saying like.
Flyers have a lot
in a
of.
couple seasons. People are saying like they're on the right track, but nobody was saying like, look at this
Not
team.
this
Like
fast.
once
But
these
this
guys age
is-
a little.
This is a classic Torts team, right? Like take
Yeah.
take a team that is as
Underachieving
bad
guys.
as you expect them to be and make them fucking good. That's a
Yeah.
Torts classic maneuver.
I will say, I think Tampa has the best contract in the NHL right now. Anyone care to guess who I'm talking about?
Kucherov.
No. I mean,
Vazzy.
fuck, you can't go wrong
Yeah.
with Kucherov, but Brendan Hagel makes 1.5 mil.
Mm.
How many points does he have this year? He's got 34
Yeah,
points
that's a pretty great
for
contract.
1.5 mil. Now, next year his contract does kick in. He's at 6.3, I think. But
I believe he's been playing first line power play this
he's
year.
fucking so good for how much he's
It's
getting
the first
paid.
time he's been doing
Quickly to touch on Torts, you say, oh, he's the best for. No, I would say the opposite. I think that he fucks teams because he goes into teams that are just in shambles that should be getting lottery picks, and he gets them to like the
right,
Brink
yeah.
of the playoffs.
16th place,
Yeah.
like
That is
sorry, like
supporting-
18th
that
place.
is
I mean,
supporting what
That's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
he might be the best long term,
he's
the
fucking
best
franchise.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
terms of like turning a team around from
Right.
like a underperforming.
Think about
or
how many
talentless
Cutter
team.
Goches they could have.
Jeez.
Or Anaheim could have.
yeah. Who knows? Maybe they're in on Zegras.
If the Penguins make the playoffs, what do you think? Do you think the chances of Crosby winning the Hart is a thing, or is that just crazy?
No,
Because
no.
he's been playing really
No,
fucking well.
He's great,
He's
but
been
no,
a
there's
good
no
sport.
chance in hell. No.
If he brings them to the play, I mean, there's production elsewhere too. How much is Malkin have right now? But Crosby's just been playing so good for his age, and
Yeah, but age.
I
doesn't
could see
come
him winning
into play.
maybe the Selkie or something like
I
that.
believe the Selkie.
I think you had him as your
self.
Selkie
I
winner.
did.
Yeah, I
That's a good
didn't.
call.
I didn't. If I change, which I probably was supposed to do that today, it would
Oh,
be
yeah, me
to
too.
Sid. And I actually may do that because
It's not-
right
it's not-
after it, I thought about Sid and I was like, yeah.
He's
Because
not
I
a
don't,
Selkie,
I
yeah.
don't think it's gonna be enough for a Hart. And
Stretch with
But I
I
had
think the next thing they're gonna go to is give him the Selkie.
I was gonna say I said it to him the last time that we talked. I think the NHL loves to pad legacy stats. They
Yeah.
really love that. Like that year
Right,
that
right.
Crosby won the Conn Smythe over Kessel.
Oh yeah,
Get the fuck
yeah.
out of here, man. There was no way he deserved that. That HBK line was the best line, one of the best lines that I've ever seen in the playoffs. They literally did everything. And they were like, well, Crosby, he was
Crosby's Crosby. He's the poster boy.
Kessel was like second line power play, and he still had more points than Crosby in that run.
That was a bit of a.
Speaking of Pittsburgh, I don't know if we've moved on from
Let's
whatever
move
we
on.
moved on to. Do you think they dish off Ginsel?
Yeah, I've been hearing that actually.
He's a UFA at the end of this year, right?
Yeah.
There's been talk today, and
Yeah.
maybe last night, that he's going to be on the move. He's at 45 points.
I don't think so because, like I said, Crosby, Malkin, Letang. They're all getting older. Now's the time to win. So if they don't go for it now,
Oh,
like,
it's right.
Oh,
yeah,
But I mean,
you
they
can't wait
just
for
signed all
years from
these guys again. Like,
So-
they signed Carlson. What's the point of doing
They're
that?
on the
You know,
decline, for sure.
that's what I'm saying though. To have that mentality of now's the time to win, you end up like the fucking 2003 Toronto Maple Leafs.
I
Every
don't think
season, load up on Dougie Gilmour and Ron Franchise and all these guys. It's like, fuck off, man. At some point, you need to realize, hey, it's time to just fucking tear it down.
But I
They
think
still
that's
got-
when these guys are done.
They still have what?
Yeah,
They're
I
gonna
think
get
it's-
like sixth
think-
in the Metro.
They have three
Pittsburgh-
Hall of Famers.
You don't get rid of Sid.
Sure, that's
right?
fine. They've won 3
You're-
cups.
Why,
with
why
them.
would you waste Sid's last 2 years?
You're
That's-
not
that's-
wasting
that's
it,
what I
man.
think.
Trading Getzel's wasting it. That means you're
It
giving
is.
up. You're giving up on
So
the season.
one thing I'll say
Trade Sid then.
is, but there's no chance of that. But one thing I'll say is, if you look at Kyle Dubas' track record, every year, like the Leafs have the biggest media market, and every year they guess wrong at what he's gonna do. Every single year, they're like, these are the targets, this is the possible trades, and they're always 100% wrong. I think Kyle makes really interesting trades. They're not what everyone expects.
Are you on a first name basis with him?
Yeah, me and Kyle were close. No, Dubas, he
K-Dog.
makes super interesting trades that people don't see coming.
Kyle, it's Tyler. Yeah.
And I think that
I don't even know what you were saying.
you guys are listening. My point is, Dubas makes trades that generally are not well forecasted by the media. He does a really good job of keeping it type ship, keeping
his
Leaks-
cards close to his chest.
Yeah,
He's
keeping
got
leaks out of
big
there.
old balls. I'll give you that much. He's got
And
balls.
so, if there's a Gensel trade, or if there isn't, it's going to be something that you're not seeing coming, I think. And he's not afraid to make big. He's not afraid to make big trade moves. So
So you're alluding to the fact of trading Gensel but not selling? Is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah, maybe. I agree with Zach saying that mindset of now is the time when you're not in the time is not a good mindset. But I
This
feel
is
like
not.
this is an exception.
This is the
like,
only
I
time.
feel like this is
3 Hall of Famers
they're
are gonna
willing-
retire soon.
They're willing to just burn these next few years and then start the rebuild.
For sure.
And
Even
I think
everything they
fans,
can.
I think most of their fans would be fine with that.
You
Like,
can't sell when you have Crosby.
you have
can't.
Crosby, you have Malkin, you have Letang. You have like 3 surefire Hall of Famers, and Pittsburgh has done right by them their entire careers. I don't see them not doing that now.
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna
They got
ruffle a
cups.
couple feathers here. I don't think that Letang should be in the Hall
That
of
was
Fame.
gonna be my next question.
Yeah.
Actually, we're locking
He
it in.
if it weren't for the 3 cups, Letang would never like. I mean, there were times where he couldn't even make
But
Team Canada.
That matters though.
Like,
3
was-
cups.
Look at the top
But
100
you know what?
players of all time by the NHL, and look how many Blackhawks are overrepresented on that list.
Yeah.
And you're telling me Letang,
Cups
who's
not-
got 3 cups, who's had a like.
Oh, trust me,
extremely
dude.
long
I'm not saying that he's not going to get it. I'm saying he's not deserving. Fucking what's his name? Clark Gillies is in the Hall of Fame. Like,
You know what? We keep saying 3-time cup winner, and his name is on the cup 3 times. But you know, Letang didn't play one of their
that's right.
the whole playoff
That's
run.
right.
Yeah.
England was their best defenseman when they beat
No.
San Jose.
Yeah.
But
But anyway, he's a 3-time cup winner. I think he's a Hall of Famer. Does he deserve it? Different question.
But would he get in without the cups? I don't think so.
Probably not. No.
No.
But you could say
Either
that
with
about a lot of
Taves,
guys. Yeah,
with
you could say
Jonathan
that about a
Taves.
lot of guys. Taves, I don't think would get in without the cups.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I don't think any of
I
the
don't think so.
Blackhawks apart from Kane could get in without the cups.
Hossa would.
Hossa would. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, yeah.
But like I meant,
Duncan Keith would. He's
I'd see
2-time Norris Trophy or 1 time?
one time, I think.
Maybe 2. I mean, anybody who wins the
Randy
Norris
Jacobs.
is you have that like
Second North, he won 2.
Yeah,
he's
he won
got
2
the-
Norris. He has a Conn Smythe. I mean, that goes to the cup win, but yeah,
Yeah.
Duncan Keith would get in.
yeah,
Hossa would get
I
in.
would say so.
Kane would get in.
Yeah.
Niemi would get. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Crawford, put that guy in.
Because can you ever remember a time where you were just like, "Yo, man,
Also
fucking
2 golds for Keith.
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
Yes.
that's it.
You guys are right. You guys are
Yes.
right.
That's why Carey Price should go. In
And another thing too, I would say that Jonathan
Oh,
Taves, if you
medals.
went just on his internationals, might be able to get in. Like
That's
the
also,
guy has the best winning percentage of a Canadian national player of all time.
Really?
Taves?
Fact?
Taves look it up, Jerry. But I believe that he played like
Where
40.
is that?
No, look it up because I've seen this article before. He played like 46 games in the Canadian uniform, and they won like 44 of them,
I
or
mean-
42 of them.
Where'd you
He
say
was
last time Rick Nash is like one
he
of
was
Rick
them?
a
Nash is the all-time.
juniors.
No. Danny Heatley is the all-time leader
Yeah.
in points.
Taves
Because-
was a junior stud, but this is
Holy-
Right?
I mean, this is in 2016, but I guess he wouldn't have played for Canada.
There hasn't really
since
been,
then,
not
right?
since then.
Taves is 45-1-1 with Canada.
That's right.
over the past
What?
decade.
Yes.
That's
He's lost
right.
2 games in a
That's
Canada
right.
uniform his
Yeah.
career.
Nasty. And he played Olympics.
What?
That's 2 Olympics.
Did he ever
Well,
play
those
world
Olympics
champion?
were
Huh? Yes, he won a world
Oh,
champion. He
that's
must
a good
have.
question. I didn't.
He must have
consider-
because he played in 2 World Juniors and then 2 Olympics. That's not 47 games.
That's a fucking crazy record. 45-1.
Yeah. His winning percentage will never be touched.
Wow.
yeah. There's no chance.
No. And did he win a console?
Yeah, so that the last thing he
Yeah,
did
it was Kane,
so,
him, and then
so that record stands.
Yeah. Nobody's ever going to touch that. Never.
He did win a Conn Smythe for sure.
That is better than the World Junior record where Sweden went like 7 years in a row without losing a
in the
game
group stage,
in the
yeah.
group stage.
Jeez.
That's better.
Yeah, that's a crazy record.
That's pretty insane.
Yeah. So anyway, I would say that yes, if you took away the cups, then Taves would be like a borderline guy. But if you took away the cups, I don't even think that Letang would be in the conversation. He was. I mean, did he ever even get higher than like 5th place in Norris votes ever? He was up against Weber, up against Subban, up against Carlson. He was up against some really, really good players who I don't think Subban's getting in. And Subban won a Norris.
No, I don't think Subban's getting either.
He won a fucking Norris.
Yeah. Fucking right he did.
Yeah. For Nashville, right?
Yeah, bullshit.
But
Jay Weber not winning a Norris is crazy. You asked, what was the question you asked? Oh, the 2003 draft. What was it? It's like if you can, who would you have? Who would you draft first overall?
If you could Yeah,
You got to go Fleury.
That was my
Yes.
that was,
Fleury, I don't
so
think-
even-
He's
but-
second all time in NHL
Yeah,
wins.
it's because of longevity.
Dude,
that's why.
second all time to
That's
fucking
why.
Fleury, and you're not
that's
going
why
to take him.
asked
I
the
love
question,
Fleury,
because,
but-
because my thought was Fleury, and I was like, I wonder
What
what
are you going to say? Fucking Getzlaff?
Do you think he was the best player of the draft, Fleury?
Yes, hands down.
I don't know.
He's
the
the
thing, though.
second most wins of all time. He's got 3
Okay,
cups,
but wait.
5
Right.
finals
Okay, wait,
appearances.
was he ever?
For me,
Listen to
it's
this.
Fleury.
Was he ever the most? Was he ever more valuable to his team than Patrice Bergeron? Was Fleury ever the driving force?
I
of
don't
this
think
guy?
that's a
Well,
fair.
first of all, Bergeron wasn't. No, Bergeron was 03. He was
Yeah.
the second round 03. Okay.
But here's the thing. That's debatable. I think that's for sure debatable. But my surprise was that your second pick was not Fleury. I think you're
No,
Weber.
man. Shea Weber.
Second, yeah.
Shea
For
Weber.
me,
No, Weber
debate
would be
on
around
the
3 or
forwards.
4. Like,
Yeah.
you'd have to have Getzlaff in the conversation.
Getzlaff.
I
My
love
issue
Getzlaff, but
is
Weber.
considering their entire career, not just in their prime. Like right now, because obviously Pavelski's.
If
still
you ask
going,
who had the
Fleury's
best
still
career,
going.
sure.
Brett Burns is still going.
But
Right,
I don't.
it's not just career. I'm
Okay.
asking, like, if you could look back and see that these guys are still here right now at this level.
But
who was
and I
the-
think-
who
I
was
think-
the most valuable?
Eric Stahl's the leading point getter from that draft too. If I'm
Probably,
not
yeah.
He's
mistaken.
probably the only one that played the
Yeah,
very
but
good
he is.
draft,
He is.
right?
He is.
He did, but he also was
Second
putting up
overall.
100 points a season for the first few seasons when a couple of those guys took a while to get off, and Bergeron never went near 100.
He
I don't
got 90,
I don't think
I think-
Getzlaff even cracked 100.
No.
But they're-
at 1,063 points. I believe the next is Getzlaff at 1,019.
And he never-
Sorry, Bergeron's 1,040.
How
And
many
did-
games played though?
Bergeron played significantly less games than Stahl. Maybe that's
Yeah, but what about Getzlaff?
Bergeron had 12, almost 1,300 games, 1,000 points, give or take.
And
But think of how many Selkies Bergeron won. Okay,
sure. Oh no, I think.
Oh
Bergeron-
no, he's the number 2.
Okay,
For
okay.
sure.
So-
Fleury aside,
for me,
Bergeron for sure.
I think there's a different question versus who would you take first overall back at that time versus look at the whole career. Who do you think had the best career?
That's a very different question. For
Because-
sure. Fleury had the best career.
I would
Because
take.
Nick
Well, that
Chernev, obviously.
That was my question. Wasn't just who was the best player. My question was if you could keep that player for
For
their
that career.
entire career,
Sure.
who would have been the
I-
guy?
Fleury won 3 cups. He won a Vezina.
But-
He's broken insane
I think
records.
there's an
Yeah.
argument for Bergeron because when you look,
Is.
but when
Insane
you look at cup
Yeah.
windows, right? The
Fucking
team,
nasty.
Crazy.
the team has not been like Fleury's teams have not been like super competitive his entire career. Bergeron, arguably, Boston's been in the
Oh, yeah.
mix his
Oh, yeah.
entire career.
For sure. For sure.
Considering
Right.
his salary too.
I
That's
think-
I'm fine with arguing Bergeron.
Well, I don't
I'm
think
not
Fleury
fine-
ever made a ton of money.
I'm not
Yeah.
fine with Weber taking
Sure.
over either of
Dude,
those.
I
Of
think
the-
Getzlaff
of
has
the
an
10
argument for third.
Of the
too.
10 guys on the ice, who was the most impactful, dominant force on the ice? I think Weber was way more impactful than Getzlaff on the ice.
At his peak,
Players
Weber
feared
was
Weber,
yeah,
but
he
we're
was
not
like a
talking-
pronger out there, like just controlled the game.
Players feared Weber. If
Yeah.
one of the
But
players,
Getzlaff
But-
too, make him like that.
hey, listen to this:
Dude, fucking
Canada-
Corey Perry's got to be in the conversation too.
Canada
Yeah, he
Olympics,
was also-
Stanley Cup Finals.
Canada Olympics. If
One
you have to
heart.
take out one guy from that team, would you take out Weber or would you take out Getzlaff? 100% you're taking out Getzlaff.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sure,
Yeah.
it's true.
But from that
But we're
draft,
look-
how many Hart trophies were there? I think Corey Perry might be the only Hart Trophy winner from that draft.
Yeah, could be.
No, Carey Price was 2006.
Not
2005.
Carey Price. I was
2005, yeah.
Joe Pavelski was also in that draft.
Not a Hart
I
winner.
forgot about
You're right. Justin Bufflin's in there too. Wait at
Yeah.
the end.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of fucking names. You might be
that.
right.
Black also was in that draft.
Yeah, no, there's nobody else who won
Mike Perry's the only one. Wow.
No, and none of them were even close. Like there was never a time where you were like, "Oh, I think that Stahl's gonna win the Hart." Like,
That's wild. It's a good, good little trivia question there.
mm-hmm.
All right, what else can we move on to? I mentioned best on best. Do we still think Canada's better than USA? Or what?
No,
It's closing the
I
gap.
think it's tight.
no, I would say that right now, if you were to have a best on best, and it came down to one thing, the USA has 6 goalies who would
Yeah,
be
goaltender.
ahead of.
wise.
I can't even think who would be between the pipes in Canada. We're fucking pathetic.
It's like Binnington, man.
Hard Bennington, Darcy Kemper, maybe. I don't know. He's dropped off.
I
a bit.
mean, Rousseau
Who?
Husso?
just played for the fucking juniors. Like he.
Oh,
Oh.
you think he's the Olympic goalie? He's
Now, yeah, I would say so.
but yeah, the goaltending is definitely the
Hey, buddy.
changing point.
But yes, I would say that no, the United States right now has a better roster than Canada. Canada has more like top heavy talent. I would say like if it came down to just a starting line,
Yeah,
telling
that's
you
McDavid.
McDavid,
True.
and fucking and Bedard will be there, but
like
yes, if it just came down to goaltending, dude, it's sad to say, but I
DUIs,
think that
though.
fucking Marc-Andre Fleury might be in consideration right
Look
now.
at-
It's that pathetic.
But look at the American D too. They're nothing to scoff at either.
No, once you get over Cale Makar and Devon Toews, Canada's
He's American.
D goes down quite a
I'm
bit.
saying that's my point.
Oh yeah, they have easily 5 goalies better than
Like
us.
Jonathan Quick, who wouldn't even be in the conversation of American goalies, could possibly
Dude,
be our
yeah,
goalie right
Yeah,
now.
Yeah.
The best goalies in the world are Russian, right? Aside from
Yes,
Hellebuyck,
that's right.
Perkins,
That's right.
Sirkin,
Dude, and it's not just Hellebuck. It's fucking Jake Ottinger. If Gibson ever got on a good team, he might be in the conversation
I think we're
too.
a little past that point, but yeah.
Oh, I don't know, man. I know.
He's great, man.
Yeah,
He's
he's
so
a really
fucking
good goalie. But I mean, dude, and I said it a little while ago, and Jerry fucking laughed at me. But watch out for. Oh, there we go.
Open another
Not my
cavalry.
sponsor.
Opening another cavalry. Actually, yeah.
Watch out if he stays healthy for Joseph Wall. I know
Yeah.
you laughed at me about that, but dude,
I
his
mean,
numbers were when he went down were best in the league.
I think the last time you brought that up,
He's American.
Oh.
the last time you brought that up, the day you tagged me in a comment on it, he let in an absolute
Yes, that's right.
muffin
That's right.
of a third goal, maybe winning
Yeah, yeah.
goal or tying goal. I don't know. Even
Yeah.
Seth was like, I would have easily saved that goal.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, I would say pretty much dead even. If anything, a slight.
So what advantage does Canada have? So the
slight
forwards?
advantage to the U.S.
Yeah, so I would say the Canada's forwards are
I think
possibly a little better. The USA's
Yeah.
D and goaltending are better than Canada.
I would agree with that.
I don't know about D.
But-
I don't know about D.
American D are pretty
American D is
stacked.
really good.
You got Cale Makar on Canada, and you got Devon Toews, but then look at the American.
It's a drop
D.
off.
Pietrangelo. He's fucking.
Dude, you always say this, but he's fucking like 30.
He's not what he used to be.
He's
Yeah.
still incredible. You don't think he would make
He's
the team?
good. No, he'd be
Oh,
on
he'd
the
make
team.
the
He's
team,
good,
but that's
but like
Dude, he just won the cup last year as the best defenseman on that team.
I know, but it was a well-rounded team. It wasn't
Sure.
like Petrangelo was like the reason that they won.
Yeah, but you just
Whereas-
you scoff at
Okay,
him like he's
no,
not a
but
good
if you
defenseman.
look at why Vancouver is winning right now, I would say it's like 20% because of one guy,
So
Quinn Hughes.
if we got Pietrangelo on the second pairing, how many American defenders are better than Pietrangelo?
I would say Quinn
Adam
Hughes is
Fox,
better. I would say Adam Fox is better. I would say that
Charlie McAvoy,
yes, I would
That's
say
it.
McAvoy's.
Slavin. He's their
No,
fourth guy.
I don't think that Slavin's better than
Oh, then.
Petrangelo. I would
I
take
think-
Petrangelo over Slavin.
Yeah, that's your point. Canada's defense is just as good as
But
America.
who else do you have there? Is Morgan Riley going to be on the team?
Morgan Riley, I think, makes the team.
Similar.
And I
Right.
think that
Yeah.
Morgan Riley is an excellent player. I think that's an indictment on Canada's defense.
What about Dougie Hamilton? Does he make the team?
Why not? He's been great when he's healthy.
Has he been great?
When he's healthy, sure.
I mean, is he healthy?
No, I mean, I guess that doesn't help.
I don't know. I mean, I would say that the U.S. has a better defensive core than Canada.
I agree.
Very close.
I would say it's definitely debatable.
I think it's
But-
close, but I would give the edge to the U.S. looking at it.
Yeah, I would give us.
I think we're missing something
John
too.
Carlson, baby, that guy.
No, I don't think that Carlson makes the
I
team.
have a bigger question on that note, which is a pretty hot topic these days.
Sanderson.
Do you think Canada is in trouble in terms of hockey development?
I would just say goaltending, absolutely.
I
But
think
so
all
and
overall.
there's more to that question. Like a lot of talk these days is on the U.S. development program. I've been saying for a long time, like how unreal that program is because it's just breeding absolute stars all the time. Do you think Canada should do something like that?
Yeah.
Like it's a
No.
such a different.
No.
It's so
Junior
different.
hockey,
It's
yeah.
so different.
I just don't see it.
Junior hockey, but also like
I don't.
so it obviously develops guys better at the top end. I don't know how great it is for the entire development.
I was going to say, so much of hockey in Canada is the culture of it. It's not just about like taking the top 20 kids and just raping the rest of the leagues. Because nobody would go to any.
GTHL is somewhat.
That's kind of what it
becoming-
is, yeah.
But no joke,
Yeah.
the GTHL is kind of becoming like a mini national development program.
Yeah, the
I
GTHL, which I played in.
Yeah.
Did you actually?
The Greater Toronto Hockey League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, Zach
But
Wilson.
like I said, I
Not
said
just the
it's-
quarterback of the Jets. but-
I said it's becoming a mini.
It wasn't a U.S. development program when I played. I'll tell you that much.
I don't think we're in as much trouble as many people are.
No.
Like the
I mean,
sirens are
no.
going off.
I mean, the only threat is U.S.
Yeah.
Like, Canada's not getting outgrown by Sweden or Finland in terms of hockey.
For sure.
I think that
But
we're
US
our own worst enemy without producing a good goalie.
Globally,
that's-
Goalie wise, Canada's.
globally, countries are improving. No question
For
about
sure.
that. But they're not coming close to Canada.
No.
Like
Not
Germany's not
soon.
coming close.
Well,
Like,
here's one.
they-
When was the last time Canada did not have the best hockey player in the world?
I mean,
Yager,
how do
probably.
you
I mean, it's
how do you
subjective, but like
quantify that?
that's always going to be a thing for. We have Connor McDavid, we have Connor Bedard, we had Sidney Crosby.
Yeah,
we have-
But I
would
also
say when Yager was.
so
in
there's
his
always
heyday,
going to be
he was
those
the
kids
best.
coming up.
But
There's
I
always
think
gonna
there's
be-
also a forward bias to like best player in the world, right?
yeah, fair enough. I mean, best
Even
defenseman in the
D,
world,
even D,
Cale Makar.
right.
Yeah, Cale
It's gonna
Makar
be-
now, and
Before
but, like, look in the past.
Makar would have been who? How long is Makar?
Oh, I
Hedman,
mean,
Hedman at one point
Drew
was
Doughty was
easily
pretty
the
fucking
best.
awesome for.
Hedman was clear the best defenseman. in the
Dowdy
world.
for a long
Dowdy,
time.
Yeah,
Dowdy
he won
was-
2 Norrises.
It's still
One.
Canadian for
Doughty?
the most
Only one?
part.
Pretty sure.
But it's not 100% Canadian, and I
Wanna
think
fight?
No, but to say the best player in the world, it's definitely been Canada.
That's what I mean. So we're always going to have that.
But one player.
Oh,
doesn't
Yager
make
was the
hockey
best
team,
for a
right?
while.
Like
No, I'm
Yeah.
saying, yeah.
He won like 6
Sure,
Art Ross.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But the best player in hockey plays like forward.
Yeah, no, I know.
Plays
It's not
23
a-
minutes,
it's
right?
Not the
If you
NBA. I know.
Yeah, it
But that helps. That
It
helps.
helps,
that we have
absolutely,
David and
but-
Bedard. And for Seth's sake, I got 2 more questions for you guys, and then we can close it off.
Oh, you're okay. I'm just chilling.
What if you guys can impose one rule change in the NHL? What would you do?
I heard McDavid make a really good point at the end of last season. They asked him the same thing, and he had said one of the things that really bothers him is when the puck rides up the glass, and it often just flies out. Whereas he said you could make like a curved glass
like
at
a
the
lip
very
at the
top
end.
Pop
that
it in.
that holds it in, so that when it pops up the boards and flies up the glass, it never leaves the ice, and it basically just
Interesting. Now,
craps it in.
I'm no scientist, but wouldn't that fuck with like the lighting and shit and fans looking through? It would distort things.
It's a small lip. We're talking centimeters here. Like I don't
Yeah.
think that's gonna make.
Yeah, like I think it would just be like a little hook.
All right. So, what was your rule?
Yeah, I would say just that one
Oh,
little
the
lip at the
okay.
edge of the
What about
glass.
you? What about Jerry? What do you got?
Go first.
Does shootouts and overtime
Yeah, fuck
count?
yeah.
Well, then that's obviously the answer.
What would you do?
Because
Tie game?
I don't know exactly what the answer is. I
Extend
wouldn't
it to
say
7
tight.
shooters.
I would
44,
at least-
3v3.
I would at least go 10 minutes,
100%.
3v3.
100%.
3 on 3, I don't know.
That's what they did in the World Juniors, and actually, I
10 minutes for sure at
Yeah.
the absolute minimum. After that, I mean, realistically, a tie is not an option.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, as not a fan of any team, countless times this season, as soon as a game goes to a shutout, I shut it off and switch to
Shootout,
another
you mean,
game.
not
Because
shootout.
I could not care less
Nah,
about a
he's
shootout.
he hates shutouts too.
Did I say shootouts?
You said shutout, yeah.
So shootouts. Obviously, it's different if you're a team. You're not going to turn it off in a shootout. But as someone who just wants to watch hockey and good hockey, as soon as the game goes to a shootout, I'm out. I flip to another game, unless it's the last game on. But I absolutely despise.
Whenever I see a shutout, I turn the TV off too.
the game's over.
I don't like those. I don't like
That's the joke. You ruined it.
When was the last time you saw
But-
one of those against the Leafs?
A shut. Oh, and it's been like 3 years, hasn't it?
The
Yeah.
Leafs are in the top 5 now. They're closing in
Hey,
on
all
line.
time.
We've reached our quota on Leaf Talk, all right?
Yeah, I
well,
believe it's been like 185 games.
Yeah,
or
something
something.
crazy.
Anyways,
So
Yes.
anyway, just that's it. Like shootout.
Wait, quiet. He's got something to say.
Has to be
Randy,
done
what do you got for
with
us?
Shootout.
Why do you guys don't like shootouts? Shootouts are cool.
because it's not hockey, right? It's
the worst.
What?
Shootouts are cool. What are you talking about?
They were cool in 2005.
but see, that's the casual fan, and that's what the NHL's tailored to, right? They want to bring in more fans, and there you go.
Fair enough.
But
Because ties suck.
Seth, how many games have you watched this season? Honest question. Is it 0?
10?
Oh, okay.
oh, there you go. The casual.
Well, I'm an Avs fan, so I watch some Avs games.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
But Avs 3-on-3 is some of the most exciting.
No, that
hockey
would be
you can
exciting,
watch.
but I
think
like shootouts.
10 minutes
though.
in shootout is such
I
a...
think
I would be fine with
Solution.
10 minutes.
Shootout? You mean 3-on-3?
No, 10 minutes.
10
yeah,
minutes?
that's
Yeah,
shootout.
with
It's
that.
such
10
an
minutes,
easy
it's-
solution that I have no idea why the fuck they haven't done it.
I agree.
Yeah.
They're worried about players getting tired. The only thing is, in overtime, it's always the top players playing, so they're playing.
But that
more.
might have to change it,
For sure.
right?
Maybe,
Right.
maybe.
Yes.
Yes, Seth, what do you got for us?
Why do they care if they're tired? They're pro athletes.
The next day they play.
It's such a waste. I hate when athletes are like, I'm tired. I can't
But
play.
longevity
Or-
actually.
You're a
matters.
pro athlete. You're getting paid to play. What do you,
More
go
injuries.
play.
More
I
injuries.
think so. Don't you want to play? You're playing a sport for your life. Don't you want to play? You know me. When I played CBHK, I always want to
The
play.
players would definitely want to play, but injuries would go up. That's the concern. I don't agree with it. I think 10 minutes.
Then let it happen.
So
All right, what do you got? Let's hear a rule change.
I'm gonna propose two, and one of them's controversial, the other one's less. And obviously, I would pick Jerry's, but I'm just gonna do it for because he already picked he already picked what I would pick. I really think the non-controversial one is I hate the overtime point, and I don't hate ties as much as you guys, but I would love wins to be 3, overtime wins to be
3,
2.
2, 1.
Yeah,
The
1.
women's
Yeah, a
hockey
lot of
did that, right?
European leagues.
They're doing it, and honestly, if you look at the full standings, like they've done every year, they do adjusted. Like if they did 3-2-1 standings, it's barely different at all. But I think it just makes ease of watching. It makes it so much clearer. I don't know why the NHL doesn't do
It
it.
makes more sense.
And I've always said we should follow the women's game.
You have always.
As long as you've known me.
Yes.
My
Yes.
My big
That's what you're
controversial
being-
one is not a rule change, but I think the NHL needs to be much stricter on interference calls. Because the amount of times I see a guy rush up the boards, chip the puck past the guy, and the guy just takes the man, holds him there,
I
and
actually
stops the
think-
rush.
I think after the lockout, they were much more strict on that, and the last few years or so, they've been kind of
But-
declining a little bit. They're letting more go with that. I
So-
agree with you. There's a lot of plays I see these days where maybe 5-6 years ago, 10 years ago, they were called more, and now like. I'm thinking they're going to call them, but they don't. You know what? We've talked about this before in text, but I more lean on your side with that. Is like
It'd also be so much harder to defend.
I
Don't
get
be
it, like
cheeks to me.
Absolutely, it's hard to defend.
ideally, yes. If it could just be called 100% the same all the time, that would be great. But I just don't think like hockey's such a physical and violent sport that can't always be the case.
No,
like
I
there's
said,
times when they need to call penalties that are kind of borderline. There's times where they can let them go, and part of that is because of how physical and violent they can.
And
like,
think about just this, like if you're looking at the clock and you know there's 10 seconds left and you're going to dump it down because it's going into overtime, what's the one thing that you're going to do? You're going to try and draw that penalty because you know if the ref is going to call it every single time, then your team's going to be at an advantage going into overtime. I know what you're saying and I understand it, but I think that it has to come down to discretion.
I told you it's a controversial one, but that's my one.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Wait, no, you're the James Duffy. We don't want to hear your opinion.
Oh, okay. I've already said mine in previous episodes. I'm sure you guys have all heard it. Eh?
what's that?
The easy one. Offside reviews. We're sick of them. Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
If we're
Just put a timer.
If we're talking about refs making mistakes, which is human nature, I'd be more pissed off of I'd be less pissed off of a missed offside than a missed penalty. A missed penalty pisses us all off more than a missed offside. Offside's the way she goes. And like these calls that are getting called back are fucking inches.
Well,
Things
Nick
that
David said
nobody-
it yesterday.
Exactly.
He
Things
said if it takes 20 minutes for you to
And you
tell
gotta
if that was
zoom in and
offside,
zoom in.
then it shouldn't make that
So,
much of a difference.
I like the concept of reviews, but I don't like how limited it is in the NHL. And I think you need to put a time limit on it. You don't let 20-minute offsides. You say, okay, you have, because like sometimes live you miss things, and that's human error. And I like the idea of a coach challenging certain aspects of the game. But like, let's say there's an offside call, you give the refs 60 seconds to look at it. And
I don't
it's
know
like,
if that would work. I'd be like,
You give them
they would
2
rush
minutes.
it and they would.
But
Dude,
that's
God.
I think that's a middle ground of like, because the purpose of that offside, like challenging an offside, was for egregious offsides. And if they can't make a conclusive change in their decision in 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, then it's not enough that you overturn it. And I think that's the middle ground that you want.
Yeah.
This is
Egregious, you challenge it, that's a clear offside.
Yeah.
It's okay, we're not going to risk the challenge. They only have 2 minutes to look at it. We can't tell.
Have you thought about barcodes on skates?
Yeah, it's
No
the lasers.
frills, no
Get the
frills,
lasers.
barcodes.
This whole thing happened. The challenging offside happened because that Matt Duchene thing that was. And how often does that happen? Once every 10 years.
No,
It's a missed call. I mean, name another one that was like that.
I mean
That egregious?
that egregious.
That's
No,
what I'm saying.
but I mean, like there are
So-
egregious ones.
Sure.
Of which one?
The Matt Duchene.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking
Yeah.
about. That was incredible.
So for that to happen, human mistake, it sucks. I'd be fucking livid if it was if it was against the Habs. But It's way better than reviewing all these fucking millimeter offsides.
So that's
So
why.
that's my rule change, and we're keeping it on that.
Okay, fine.
All right, next topic.
Let's we're at an hour and 20 minutes. Let's close it off with everybody give me your cup winner. Starting with Seth.
Why Habs? What?
Abs.
Colorado
Sure.
Avalanche for Seth.
The Avalanche.
Habs, Montreal.
Avalanche. Jerry, who's your cup winner?
I mean, I think this morning or yesterday, I messaged you saying the Avs are winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
So
you did,
I
this
guess
morning.
I'm gonna have to stick with that.
Go
Well,
yeah.
Especially if I'm to fully think of it through right now, I'm not 100% sure I would go with that, but I said it yesterday, so I'm gonna go.
Avs it is. Gimple, who you got?
I'm gonna go with another controversial one here, and I'm gonna go with the Carolina Hurricanes because they've had absolutely abysmal goaltending and still had a pretty good winning record and still been a solid team. If they fix their goaltending, I think that they become a real solid force. And all it takes is a hot goal. But all it takes is a hot goalie in the playoffs,
I like it.
and they're
It's conditional
right in
to
it.
them getting a goalie. All right.
But
Zach,
that's
who do
still
you
my
got?
pick.
I'll go with the Golden Knights again. I think that they have a very similar team to last season. I don't think anybody else around them, people would say, oh, Vancouver and Winnipeg, but I think that they're kind of houses of cards that I don't think are going to hold up. Whereas
even the Kings.
the Kings are the other one who, in that division who I think could make a serious run. But, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the Kings even lose to the Oilers last season?
did.
Was last
2 years in a row.
I know, but the Oilers are another team that, what they've got.
They're now in the wild card.
Yeah, and I think that they're going to rise up. But I don't think that they're going to be as big of a contender on paper, at least as they were last season. But I do think that the Kings are very good, but I don't think that they're better than the Golden Knights. So I would say the Golden Knights just because it's hard to bet against the team that didn't really make many changes, and it seems that teams around them got worse. Like the Oilers haven't gotten any better. The Canucks have gotten better, but I don't think that the Canucks are. The Kraken's gotten worse.
Eichel's playing well. He's going to be on his first 100-point season this year.
Yeah.
Minnook and I have 10 G's bet on it.
Yeah,
Is he on pace for
Might
one?
be $10, but fuck that.
So you guys don't have to.
and the Central is pretty much, save for the Wild, is pretty much the same as it was last season.
Hey, it was
The
10,000.
Jets and the Wild kind of swap.
10,000.
Our listeners don't know
We
what
have
ones are.
10,000
$10,000.
bet on- Did
I
you
think
remember
most of
that
our
bet?
listeners.
Yeah. I
He's
think
not on pace. I think he's
Yeah.
on pace for like 80.
I'm winning
right
that
now.
my cup winner.
We didn't ask.
And let's end it there. Thank you all for coming. No, the red, white, and blue, baby.
The Red Wings, all right.
No, the actual red one, not the blue.
The Americans.
The Rangers. I put money on them to win last year, and they fucked me over in the first round.
You
But I
haven't
think-
bet much.
I think that I forgot what I bet. Either way, I was pissed. But if you think of it, they have like every part. They have everything you need. They have a wicked offense. They got a wicked defense, and they got one of the best goalies in the world. So just looking at that, I'm not going to break it down too much. They
I actually think that their defense is a weak point. I think Adam Fox is great, but I don't think that there's anybody else. there.
DeAndre Miller.
No, I don't think that he's that good, and I
Jacob
don't think that
Trouba?
Truba's good either. No,
He's a big boy.
I don't know.
they're both big boys.
Name
and-
two Leaf players better than Jacob Trouba, defenseman.
Oh, I would say Riley's better.
Riley.
Yeah,
I
of course. That's why I said two.
But I
And
would
Timmins.
actually. Yeah, I was gonna say if I could have them from now until the end of their
No,
career.
this season. We're not
Yeah,
talking
I
about
mean,
this season's coming.
I mean, Liljegren got hurt, so it's hard to say. But
I
if
mean,
you look
have
at
seen that
his advanced stats, Liljegren is like a.
I like Liljegren a lot, but
He's
Jacob
consistent.
Trouba's a good defenseman.
But Trouba gives the fucking puck away nonstop.
And then
in
he'll
his own
break
end.
your face off.
That's fine. Whereas
Why
Liljegren won't
you
break your face, but he doesn't.
No,
Comparing
it's-
them to the Leafs right now, and then
You're right. That was uncalled for. You're right. That was uncalled for. I think Rangers have a solid defense. When Zibanejad's fucking clicking, Panarin's amazing. Great offense, and then Shesterkin is Shesterkin. And Jonathan Quick. Holy fuck. Probably the best goalie tandem in the league, not named the Bruins.
Vegas might be able to.
I don't know.
When
Hellebuck
Hill's
and
healthy.
name is pretty good.
And Brossois?
Yeah, but Hellebuck and literally
Anyone?
any player.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. Caffrey, sponsor. Hey, Seth, what do you drink in the summer?
Caffrey.
What do you drink in the winter?
Caffrey.
There you go. There's only 2 seasons. That's good. All right.
Don't
Thanks for
forget
listening,
that.
guys. We'll do this again.
Yeah, for sure.
Some good listeners.
Go Leafs.
Or some good. What do you
Good.
what do you guys
Good
call them?
listeners. You guys are
Yes.
doing a great
Hey,
job over there.
Listeners are great.
Getting a little too much into the sponsorship deal over there.
Yeah. Thanks, Caffrey, for making me smile and stuff. All right. Let's watch the Leafs lose. Let's go, boys.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed our first roundtable discussion. Like I mentioned earlier, still a very new podcast. We're going to be working on things, adding to our studio to make everything work better as we continue to go through this NHL season through the podcast life cycle. Thank you all for listening again. Make sure to tune in next week, and I hope everyone has a wonderful week. See you next time.
All around the world, we can make time. Or up and stop it, cause I'm in